Good morning and welcome to another episode of Unscripted and Unchained RPG Review. I am DM Bloodworth, and as you can see by the graphics, today I'm going to be doing a video on the gameplay of ShadowDark RPG, the core rules. No longer dealing with the quick start rules that I had previously. Now I'm going to start doing a deeper dive into the expansion of those quick start rules and start to take a look at the finished product of the game. Today I'm starting with a gameplay. This is episode 2 of the playlist that I have, and we'll see how much time and how many videos I spent in each section. Obviously, if they're very very long, I will break these down so that the video itself is not running an hour and a half or something. I will try to keep these somewhat focused, but also break them apart and just for your viewing convenience. So without further ado, let's jump right into the gameplay section. So here we have gameplay, and going to go through. So Shadowdark is like a sleeping bear. Only go near it if you have a 10-foot pole and are prepared to die. Blah, sorry. This is really my first time reading through some of these things, so you are getting an unscripted and unchained preview of this game system. I won't spend too much time with these little nuances and such, and these little reading passages, but it's a really nice touch because it kind of gives you the tone of the tone of what the gaming experience objective is for Shadow Dark. Adventuring, so crawlers. Crawlers, those who dare the lost halls and caverns of the Shadow Dark, are called by many names: crawlers, delvers, explorers, adventurers, treasure hunters. In this chapter, you will learn how to crawl with the best of them. Whether you're exploring a lightless barrow mound or the shrouded forest of Eld, the rules herein will guide you. All right, I like the fact that they're not just calling the players, right? I think it's pretty cool that Shadow Dark is really trying to set you into the mindset of your character by saying, no, you're not a player, you're not a player character, you're a crawler, a delver, explorer, an adventurer, or a treasure hunter, and kind of break away from you know de-gamifying the the experience that you're having on the table by making it, well, we're a group of players playing a game. I think this kind of sets you into the character's mindset better. So we go outside the sheet. The first step to crawling is understanding your environment and imagining an action you want to take. Don't simply scour your character sheet for ideas and options. Your crawling career depends on your ability to think outside the sheet. And this is something I've said, a number of times as well. The playing beyond the character sheet is so important. It is an old school concept that it's so refreshing to see a younger person that has grasped this idea and is really pushing for it. Kudos to Kelsey for reminding everybody we're not just playing a character sheet. We're thinking beyond that. Imagine what you would really do if you were in your character's situation. Do you see a suit of armor in an alcove? Maybe you lift the helm's visor and make sure nothing is looking back at you. Do you hear faint voices behind a rotting wooden door? Maybe you creep up and press your ear against it to hear what's happening on the other side. Is a band of orcs chasing you and your companions down the hallway? Maybe tearing the decrepit tapestries from the walls will hamper their pursuit. None of the above ideas are listed on the character sheet, although you should use your stats and spells and gear and talents. Don't limit yourself only to those. Onward. The section details the core rules of ShadowDark RPG. Armed with your dice and your wits, you're ready to learn the legendary art of crawling. Stride boldly into the darkness. So, here are some of the very basic systems, right? So there is advantage, and advantage is if you're, basically you're rolling two dice, and taking the better of the two choices. That is, it's not new. It's also was not created by 5e, or even necessarily Dungeons and Dragons in particular. This is something that has been banging around. The idea of rolling for it, with advantage, has been banging around for about 30 years. So it's not anything new, but it's good to see that it's here. Rolling disadvantage is taking the lower of the two dice rolls. If you're, if you did a fumble, and then you might have to roll for disadvantage on your next subsequent roll as a penalty for that. Canceling, if you have both advantage and disadvantage on the roll, they cancel each other out, and you just roll one die and take the result as is. Natural 20s, you rolls an automatic hit, and you'll go to the critical hit chart on page 89. Let's see how these things are working. So I want to go back to 82. Let's see. I guess I'm on 89. I'm on 93. That didn't work. Let me go back to 82. Kind of strange. Uh, that link did not take me directly to 89. It took me to 93 instead. Um, so, like I said, first time testing these things out. That's very strange. All right, natural one. When you roll a d20 and rolls a natural one, what you're doing fails to your maximum capacity. You fail to your maximum capacity. An attack roll automatically misses and might even strike an ally. Um, I don't see the reference to a critical fumble chart, although there may be one. So we shall see. The D6 decider. If there's a random chance of an outcome, such as whether a drop torch goes out, the GM calls for a D6 roll. A 1 through 3 result is the worst outcome for the players, and a 4 to 6 result is the better one. All right, and maybe that's what you use for critical, a natural one and a critical fail. Luck tokens. Sometimes a GM awards a luck token to a player for exceptional role playing, heroism, or just plain coolness. Each player can only have one luck token at a time. You can cash in a luck token to re roll any roll you just made. You must use the new result. You can give your luck token to a companion. How many to give? The GM might award 3 to 5 luck tokens per player during a session with a pulpy heroic feel. Alternatively, the GM might only give one luck token per player during a game session that is grim, difficult, and dark. Big sacrifices, moving speeches, or incredibly daring maneuvers might be worthy of luck tokens, whether or not the character's actions were successful. Using the stats. Certain tasks fall under specific stats. The following examples illustrate common use for each one. The difference between intelligence and wisdom can be tricky. If in doubt, remember wisdom is for sensory acuity and instinct, while intelligence covers knowledge and logic. Strength, smash open locked doors, bending the bars of a prison cell or sewer grate, lifting a large rock overhead, stopping a runaway ship's helm from spinning. Dexterity, diving away from a trap that flings a hail of needles, disabling a tripwire without activating it, scaling a sheer castle wall, or fooling onlookers with sleight of hand tricks. Constitution, holding your breath underwater, withstanding intense pain, or resisting the effects of poison. Intelligence, giving first aid to dying character, recalling the path through a twisted maze, finding food and water sources in the wilderness. Wisdom, spotting a well-hidden enemy, determining the direction a faint noise or smell, deciphering the sounds on the other side of a door. Charisma, performing ventriloquism, applying a disguise, rallying allies who are terrified by a monster. Making checks. When to roll. Usually you succeed at what you're trained to do without needing a roll check. For example, a wizard is always able to read magic runes, and a thief always finds a trap if searching in the right area. If you take the time to scan the sky for threats or examine a stretch of wall for a secret door, you simply succeed. Social encounters usually rely on what you say rather than charisma checks. Narrating a moving speech or using secret information you gather to influence an NPC does not require a check to succeed. The GM asks for a check when the following is true: the action has a negative consequence for failure, the action requires skill, there is time pressure. All right, so this is really important. Um, it's eliminating unnecessary rolling, and it moves away from roll, roll, and implies role, role, playing. All right, so for many of the tasks, you're going like common tasks, you don't have to check. If I'm lifting up the if I'm lifting up a pillow, I shouldn't have to make a strength check to overturn a pillow, or even a bed, if that unless there's a risk of there being a negative consequence, unless there's a risk that I might fail in trying to do so, then there's no need to roll. You just tell the game master, this is what I'm doing, and it gets done. There's no need to roll. But in the cases when there is a difficulty in that action, here is the difficulty class that is applied. A DC 9, leaping a narrow chasm, sneaking up on an inattentive guard. All right, so this is an easy task. So you're going to roll a d20, apply any of your modifiers, and your target number is a 9 or higher. Normal, DC 12. So kicking open a stuck door, picking a poor lock. All right, you need to roll a 12 or higher on a d20. Hard is a DC 15, swimming against a strong current, giving first aid to stop a character from dying, and such as a DC 15. And then extreme, climbing a slippery cliff, one handed restraining a frenzied lion. All right, is a very difficult task, and so you would need to roll an 18 or higher on your check. Contested checks. If multiple creatures are working against each other on a conflicting task, a contested check decides who succeeds. To make a contested check, each participant rolls one relevant stat, checking at the same time, even if it's not their turn. The highest result wins, reroll ties. So let's say you're doing a tug of war, right? Both sides are going to roll their 18s, their d20s. I'm sorry, and whoever scores higher is going to succeed. All right, whoever makes their strength check is going to succeed, or the more strength checks made is going to succeed. Time, real time. Time passes in the game world at the same pace it's passing in the real world. 1 minute or hour of game time is equal to 1 minute or hour in real time. This matters for tracking light sources because most light sources only last for 1 hour of real time. If you can track real time in your game, assume 1 hour is equal to 10 rounds. All right. So this is a very, very old school concept of one to one timing. All right. And in general, I have found that it it kind of happens organically anyway. Um, but I try to maintain that balance between real time and game time, and see kind of how that pacing is going. Uh, you do not have to be 100% accurate with this. So that's the only thing that I'm going to say, is that it doesn't have to be absolute. Um, but it does create a different experience. I don't want to say a better experience, but it certainly does create a different experience when you're trying to have these at one to one. Hold on, I got to answer this. I don't know why it's coming up. Sorry about that. Uh, Turns and rounds. A turn is a player's moment to describe what their character does to the GM. Players act one by one on each of their turns. Some turns need a bit of room to breathe. A character who is speaking with someone can make a few reasonable exchanges back and forth. A round completes when each person has taken one turn. Time passes. Um, every moment is in the game doesn't have to be accounted for in real time. That's what I'm talking about, right? You might not have that one for one uh, at 100%. For example, if characters want to spend 10 minutes examining a room from top to bottom, the GM and the players can agree that time passes. All right. So you're not going to, when time passes, the GM and the players move any timers down by that amount. Minutes pass. Effects with the duration of rounds expire. The GM rolls one random encounter check that occurs on a 1 to 3 on a d6 while this time passes. All right. Hours and days pass. Effects with the duration shorter than the time passed expire. The GM uses overland travel rules to check for encounters that occur while this time is passing. After resolving encounters, the game world fast forwards to the new point in time. All right. So again, I mean, um, Kelsey Dion is building in the exceptions to and the modifications that you're going to make as a game master to um, bring into sync artificially the one-to-one timing here. So it's good to see that it's not. It's good to see that it's not the so stringent. Turn order initiative. Shadow Dark RPG is played in a turn order right from the start. At the beginning of the game, the GM establishes initiative, or the order in which players act. Everyone rolls a d20 and adds their dexterity modifier. The GM adds the highest dexterity modifier of any monster if relevant. The person who rolled the highest takes the first turn, and then the turn's uh, order moves clockwise from that individual. So for that particular scene, if you will, if the DM rolls the highest roll, then the DM is going to go first, and it's going to go clockwise, beginning with the DM and going around. If the third player at the table rolls the highest, then it's going to start with that player, and then it's going to move clockwise around, most likely including the GM, and then it will go to the next two character players after the GM. So this I really like. I mean, this is a very simple system to use. You only roll initiative once, and you're only rolling initiative at you're only rolling initiative at the beginning of the scene. All right, so there might be multiple rounds in a particular scene. You can even carry that through and do it for the entire game session. We'll always go in that order for the game session. Um, Player turn. Each player counts down any personal timers for spells and other effects. The player takes an action, may move up to near, split up anyway. The player can move near again if skipping an action. The GM describes what happens as a result of the player's turn. The GM turn. The GM counts down any timers not tracked by players. The GM checks for the random encounter if needed. The GM takes actions and makes movements for any relevant creatures or environmental effects. The GM describes what the characters notice as a result of steps 1 through 3. Encounters. An encounter occurs when the challenge presents itself that stops the character's progress. An encounter could include a monster charging out of the darkness, a sinkhole breaking open in the ground, or a town guard halting the characters. The DM rolls for the chance of an encounter every few rounds, depending on how dangerous the encounter environment is. Crawling. The ShadowDark. The ShadowDark is any place where darkness, danger, and myth reign supreme. It could be a crumbling ruin, an ancient mountain strongholds, or mysterious towers. It could be a gloomy forest, trap-laden pyramids, or haunted sea caves. As long as the characters are going into danger with swords, spells, and torches ready, they're going into the ShadowDark. Crawling rounds. Characters are in crawling rounds while not in combat. They are exploring, talking, and engaging in the environment. Vision. All characters need light to see, but that's not true for the darkness adapted beings of the Shadowdark. Note that any area outside of light sources illumination is in total darkness. Light sources. Most light sources last for up to an hour of real time and illuminate a limited area. Players have two options when lighting more than one light source at a time. The newer light source rides along on the current timer, extinguishing all old light sources. Start a new timer with a fresh light source. The GM can make rulings counter to the above. The purpose is to make tracking light timers simple, not frustrating. All right, so yeah, if you have 10 minutes left, but you're lighting a new torch, the old torch dies out. All right, you're lighting a new torch. You're going to set a new 1 hour timer based on that. So the idea here is that if if you're going to light two torches, light them both at the same time, and then light new ones both at the same time, and that will extend your your distance of light source, and keep the tracking of the timing more uniform and easier to follow. Total darkness. While in total darkness, a creature who is not darkness adapted has disadvantage on tasks it undertakes that require sight. Only the environment becomes deadly. The GM checks for random encounters every crawling round. Movement. Distances are broken up into close, which is roughly 5 feet, near up to 30 feet, and far within sight during an encounter or scene. Climbing. Strength and dexterity checks to climb half your speed. Fall if you fail by 5 plus points. All right, so let's say you have a strength of a 12 and you rolled, so you need to roll a 12 or higher in order to continue climbing. And let's say that you rolled five, five below that. You did not make your check. Actually, I just reversed that. I'm sorry. Um, let's say you rolled above your strength by 5 points. You fell. All right. You did not make the you do not make the climb. Falling. You take d6 damage for every 10 feet you fall. All right, that's uniform, pretty much. Moving through. You can move freely through allies. You must pass a strength or dexterity check to move through enemies. Swimming. If swimming half speed requires strength check in a rough water. Make a con check each round you hold your breath. On failed con check, a d6 damage. A round until you exit the hazard. All right. Regrouping. During crawling rounds, the GM can ask the players if they want to regroup. To regroup, any PC within eyesight or earshot of each other who are able to move freely may immediately move within near of each other. Then initiative continues as normal. Conditions. Some effects impose a condition on character, such as blindness from a blast of fungal spores or the inability to move while tangled in a giant spider web. Advantage and disadvantage apply to most situations, and as does common sense. For example, a blinded character has disadvantages on tasks requiring sight, and a character stuck in a giant spider's web, can't move until freed. Actions. While crawling, characters can take actions that might include prying a gem from a statue, sneaking up on a slumbering manticore, swimming to the bottom of an oily pool of water, tapping on a suspicious wall to check for hidden doors, scanning a room for signs of hidden enemies, giving a rousing speech to a group of fearful townsfolk. All right. And let's see. I have quite a bit more to go. We have resting, stealth, and surprise. Um, I'm going to do resting and stealth and surprise, and I'm going to save combat for the next video. So, resting, injured characters can rest to recover from their wounds. To rest, a character must consume a ration and sleep for 8 hours. Sleep can be broken up for light and routine tasks, such as taking a turn on watch. Interruption. Each stressful interruption of rest, including combat, requires an affected character to make a DC 12 Constitution check. On a failure, the character consumes a ration but gains no benefit from rest. Success. A character who successfully rests regains all lost hit points and recovers any stat damage that was not permanent. Additionally, some talents, spells, or items regain their ability to be used after a successful rest. Danger level. Characters can rest anywhere, but doing so inside a dungeon or perilous environment carries a high chance of failure due to the risk of a random encounter. While the characters are resting in dangerous environments, the Game Master checks for random encounters using the overland travel cadence. Unsafe, check every 3 hours. Risky, check every 2 hours. Deadly, check every hour. Campfire. In many cases, adventurers need a light source while resting. Characters can combine 3 torches into a campfire that cannot be moved once lit. A campfire lasts up to 8 hours while at least one character remains near it, and it casts light out to the near distance. Stealth and surprise. Hiding and sneaking. Creatures who are hiding or sneaking must succeed on dexterity checks to go undetected by other creatures within eyesight or earshot. The GM determines the frequency and difficulty of the check based on environment. The GM might secretly roll the check for a character if the knowledge of the outcome impacts the situation. Hiding limitations. Creatures can hide while other creatures are able to see them even at casual glance. It might also be impossible to hide if there's nowhere for the creature to stay out of sight. That's a really important thing because I know a lot of times I've seen like people will allow someone to hide in shadows and in a desert, there's no shadows to hide behind. So you have to use common sense as a game master on whether or not a character ability can actually be used in the situation that they're in, and not be afraid to say no, that can't work here. Detecting a hiding or sneaking creature requires the searcher to actively look or listen. Looking in the right place automatically reveals a hidden creature. Otherwise, the searcher must succeed on a wisdom check to perceive a hiding or sneaking creature. Surprise. A creature who begins its turn undetected has the advantage of surprise. If combat hasn't started yet, those with surprise take one turn before the combat initiative roll. A creature has advantage on attack rolls against surprise targets. Attacking from hiding gives away the attacker's position afterwards unless the DM determines otherwise. GM determines otherwise. So I'm going to leave it there before we get into combat because, like I said, the this video is starting to extend very quickly, um, and so I don't want to make it too long. So there we have the various sections, leading us right up to the gameplay and into combat. So that is going to be the focus of my next video on Shadow Dark. Um, I really like this system for what it is doing. It seems to be very, very simple to do these various actions, and to it's designed to have the common sense aspects of what it would be like to be adventuring in a dark, gloomy, and dangerous place, and yet not bog it down with too many rules and dice rolls, at the same time. So it is a really nice looking balance between the two objectives, right? Add that sense of plausibility, that sense of a simulation kind of experience, and yet at the same time not add so many gameplay features to flesh that out that it becomes cumbersome. So we will see in the next video how the combat goes, and that one will be very specific to just combat. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was a good learning experience as far as seeing the setup rules as it goes along. These are a little bit more in depth than what was in the quick start, so that's good to see that the rule book itself is the core rule books is like 332 pages. This is a fully fleshed out game system, and the quick start rules were about a third of that, and so it makes sense uh, to see um, where this expansion is really going to come from, going from the quick start rules to this rule set now. So that's where I'm going to look to really focus on with this video and with future videos of Shadow Dark. So I hope you enjoyed this. Um, Thanks for coming in. Make sure that you like and subscribe and hit the alerts and share this video out there. Questions and comments, please feel free to jump in there. If you point out anything like I mistook, I had a little brain fart there with attribute checks and everything. It's below. So if you rolled 5 above your attribute check, that's considered a fail. I have to dig a little deeper into that because I think that if you're climbing something and you failed it, you should fall. But the rule says you have to fail by 5. I might adjust that a little bit and see um, and see if I really read that correctly. So anyway, um, looks like a great system. I'm really enjoying digging through it the first time. Uh, can't wait to get the physical copies, which I suspect will be sometime in June or July, I believe. is when that fulfillment is supposed to take place. So, really looking forward to getting the actual physical copies. And I will further break down some of the other items that I got in my Kickstarter. I will be breaking down the zines and even taking a very brief look at some of the adventures and certainly the pre-gen characters that came along with it as well. So there's going to be quite a lot of coverage for Shadow Dark on my channel for the next couple of weeks. Be prepared to see that along with my Castles and Crusades, and then any other game materials that I picked up between now and then. And I'm looking forward to doing an interview soon for another game system, another game designer. I'd love to have Kelsey on, on this channel here, and I will certainly put out that request if she wanted to come on and talk about her game here on this channel. That would be phenomenal. I will certainly kind of send out the invite, although I don't expect. She's probably so busy right now. I doubt that would happen, especially my tiny little channel here. But it would be awesome if she could. Or would. Thanks for stopping in, and you all have a great day. And I look forward to seeing you on the gaming screen sometime soon at a convention, even better so. And maybe I will get out to the Midwest someday and go to one of the really big ones and meet a whole bunch of people. So, with all that said, have a great rest of your day. Take care.